Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again today. It is time to change the front shock absorbers and strut mounts. For the shock absorbers, I have the OEM Bilstein shocks. And for the strut mounts, yes, your eyes are not deceiving you. These are the Euro mounts. But don't freak out. This is actually not what's going in the car. Instead, the magic is in here, in this package, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video when we get to that point. For now, these parts need to move over and get placed in there. So let's take a look at the engine compartment. I have removed the plastic caps from all the bolts here, placed them in the Ziploc. As we remove the nuts, those would come in the Ziploc as well. You need 13 millimeter for the three on the side, and you need 17 millimeter for the center. So that takes care of the top. And then for the bottom, we need to lift up the vehicle. And what's important is that both wheels in parallel get off the ground on both sides, and the tires have to be fully up in the air with the suspension fully extended and stretched down as far as possible. With both wheels being up in the air, this would ensure that there is no tension, there's no flex on the sway bar. We don't want any flex on the sway bar. You'll see why that's important in a moment. And also we want the suspension extended as far as possible so that we have more space to work there and get the strut, sort of the entire assembly maneuvered out of the wheel well. All right, the front of the vehicle is up in the air. We have the wheel off. I have some added lighting in the wheel well so that we can see better. You'll probably also notice that the plastic liner is out of the way. I removed that last fall, mainly to clean it and rejuvenate the plastic. I haven't put it back in yet, but if you're doing this project, do take those liners out. You want the extra working space and volume that opens up for this project. Now, let's take a look at what we have in the wheel well. There are two more bolts that need to be removed. They're right here. The first bolt is the shock absorber, the bottom of the shock absorber connected to the control arm. Essentially, we need to break that connection. That will free up the bottom of the entire assembly. And the other bolt is the connection of the sway bar end link to the control arm. Now, these are the heads of the bolts. And on this side, we have the nuts. Here's the end link nut. And over here where we don't actually have that great lighting, let me move. Yeah, here it is. This is the nut for the bolt at the bottom of the shock absorber. So these two need to come out. Now, clearly, the bolt holding the shock absorber needs to be removed because we are taking the entire assembly out. That needs to be free. Why is it important to release this connection? Well, once this bolt is removed or this connection is broken, this could be removed as well, but I find this more finicky to work with. The bottom is easier. Once this connection is broken, theoretically, what should happen is this should allow the whole suspension to drop down even further, maybe by another inch and a half, something like that. When the whole suspension drops down further, again, it would open up a little bit extra space here at the top to work with. And we need that. We need every millimeter of extra space at the top that we can get. So next step at this point would be loosen the top and only then break the link for the sway bar. Now, as I'm loosening the top, I don't want any pull down from the suspension. So what I'll do is I will put a jack, I'll put a jack over here, bring it up to support the suspension components in place, just so that they're not trying to pull down the assembly as I'm loosening the bolts from the top. I hope that makes sense. Let's set that up and we'll come back to the video. All right, I have the bottom of the suspension supported by the jack. Now it's not resting onto the dust shield, it's only resting on the disc itself. And with this in place, I can now start loosening the top. There should be no pressure now onto these nuts in terms of pull downwards. They should be relatively free to just come off without these bolts dropping down. By the way, if you see me wearing a jacket, that's because at the very end of April here, we're still with negative temperatures outside. It's unbelievable, but hey, not to worry, warmer days are ahead of us. Goes in the Ziploc. And last one. Very well. So far, so good. Now, let's move back to the wheel well. Now, you'll probably notice that I have marked the clocking of the spring. This is the tail of the spring, finishes right here. I've marked that location relative to the metal plates. There are marks on both plates, so that if I could, when I'm reassembling, I would put them back in the exact same way and orient them in the exact same way upon reassembly. I also took pictures at the top to make sure that all of that setup with the little round washer is reassembled in the same way also. Now, there's no way for me to film the top and at the same time the jack. So we will stay focused here at the top, which is really the more important part. And I will be slowly releasing the tension of the jack, which will allow the suspension to come down. And as it comes down, the entire strut assembly should release from the top of the tower there. So let's see how this goes. Okay. There it is. See how it's loose now? The two bolts that we are going to loosen do not really look rusty or problematic, but a shot of WD-40 never hurt anyone. So I sprayed them a bit, gave them a few minutes, and I think we're ready to go ahead with the loosening process now. All right, now back here at the head of the bolt, I'll be holding counter with a 13 millimeter. And on this side, I will be loosening the nut with a 15 millimeter. Let's get this in. All right, let's go. Just like that. Done and done. All right, now we need to remove the bolt. And once we do, we're going to release that sway bar. And with that, the suspension would hopefully drop down a little bit further. All right, let's remove this bolt. There we go. Oops, there we go. hope this was visible in the video, but the suspension did drop down a good amount actually, maybe about an inch I would say. Oh yeah, and I could even push it much further after. Oh, take a look at what's happening on top. That's beautiful. Let's get some light over here. There we go. You see that? This is now completely... Look at this huge gap that opened up. Okay, that's really good. So the suspension is really, really low now. We've done 3 bolts on top. The 4th bolt was here at the link. And there's only 1 bolt left. The 5th bolt right here that actually holds the bottom of the assembly to the control arm. Let's take that one out. Requires a counter at the back, 18 millimeters. And the front, the nut is a 19 millimeter. There we go. Oops. Ready? Let's go. Alright, from this vantage point you should be able to see the entire bolt, with the head of the bolt being here on this end, and on the other side is the thread where we remove the nut. So apply some pressure here with a piece of wood. Okay, it's moving back very easily, that's good. Now I need to find a way to keep pulling the bolt out. I have to remember this washer when we're reassembling. I wonder actually if there are any other washers. Yeah, there is a washer on this side that I just removed. So there is one on this side and one on this side. Thankfully I have the video for reference when I'm reassembling. Okay, so don't lose these washers. Let's apply some pressure here. The pressure is towards the drill, essentially going to the right. Yeah, there we go. All right. Bolt is out. I now have both washers in with the nut, and this will stay as one assembly until I'm ready to put it back. And at this point, the whole strut, there we go, assembly is free. Oops. And loose and can move. And we'll now have to maneuver it left and right out of the way. This is probably the most challenging part of the job. Let's see how that turns out. Alright folks, the moment of truth. Now, I've removed the sway bar link so that you have better visibility into this bottom area, so that you can keep an eye of the bottom of the assembly. When you're doing this on your vehicle, you don't have to remove the sway bar link. Don't worry about it. It can keep hanging here. It's just for filming, this gives you better access. So keep an eye on the bottom relative to this triangular bracket here, and keep an eye on the top relative to sort of the edge and the cavity here. And I'll start the removal process. Hopefully we won't run into any glitches and you will be able to get this out in a few seconds. All right, let's go. At this point, we're out of this channel and we're almost home free. There we go. It looks like I'll have to remove this light from here. Okay, we have space to pull up. There we go. Boom. Look at that. 3 bolts from the top, 2 bolts from the bottom, and we are out in one piece. Nice and easy. Well, I'm happy about that. And this will probably be it for today. I'll take a break. I'll go inside to warm up. I'll continue tomorrow with the actual assembly itself. And yeah, thank you so much. Best of luck in your projects. I hope this was helpful. I hope you got some sort of new knowledge out of this and some insights. And see you in the next video. Take care.